Tonight, taken down, the gang accused of one of the most callous crimes Sydney's ever seen. Homes on fire at Liverpool and Penrith, families just seconds from disaster. A major blow for Donald Trump that could rule him out of the race to the White House. A 4-kilometre fire show unleashes a new invisible threat. Matilda star Mary Fowler, Queen of the Kids in St George. And is Test cricket under threat as Australians pocket millions in the IPL auction?
This is 9 News with Georgie, Gardner.
Good evening. It was a crime police described as heinous. 3 innocent people shot in their cars at Greenacre earlier this year in a case of mistaken identity. Today, major raids across Sydney saw 8 alleged members of a crime gang taken into custody over the attack as detectives search for the gunman overseas.
One after another after another. A notorious Sydney crime gang brought to its knees. 8 simultaneous dawn raids and 8 arrests across the Central Coast and Sydney this morning, including in Drummoyne, Moorebank and Wattle Grove. All men and a woman accused of being part of an illegal network, police say, that brought terror to our streets.
Murder, major drug supply, kidnappings, public place shootings, a breadth and a scale that I've not seen again in a very long time.
3 of the 8 have been charged with murder for their alleged involvement in the shooting of innocent 25-year-old Ahmed Al-Azam in Greenacre earlier this year.
From my point of view, as I said, it's one of the most callous crimes that I've seen in my 28 years.
Fatally shot, minding his own business, sitting in his car. 2 other innocent bystanders in a separate vehicle fired at as well, one now a quadriplegic because of his injuries. Today, police revealing why they were targeted. The trio mistaken for members of a rival gang.
They had a belief that the Comanchero, or members of the Comanchero outlaw motorcycle group, were going to perform an act of violence upon one of the individuals that today has been charged.
Authorities are confident that the 8 arrests this morning have crippled this organised crime network, but there is one person that's yet to face justice. Police say the one that pulled the trigger.
Currently, we believe that person is offshore and we will be making inquiries to identify exactly where they might be.
Police confident it's a matter of when, not if, the shooter is tracked down. In Drummoyne, Alex Heike, 9 News.
3 people have been killed and another 2 injured in a crash near Gardner in the state's north. The 3 victims were all foreign workers travelling in the back seat of the Holden Commodore when it lost control at 6:30 this morning. It brings the state's road toll to 352. That's 80 more lives lost than this time last year.
I hope and I pray people do the right thing over the Christmas period, because you could be in a situation where you destroy your own life, you kill yourself, you kill a family member.
The 24-year-old male driver and surviving passenger are being treated in hospital. Smoke alarms have probably saved the lives of a young family after fire ripped through their Liverpool home. It's been a busy time for emergency crews who also battled a fire at another family home near Penrith.
Tearing through the roof.
Oh, it's flaming up.
Towering flames take hold of the home only seconds after a family's escape.
This situation could have been a lot worse, talking serious injuries or even fatalities, I'd say.
It was just before 2 a.m. when the blaze became apparent along Murphy Avenue at Liverpool. Smoke alarms waking a father and his 3 adult children who scrambled to safety as the fire fled.
Blasts after blast after blast after blast, and the flame kept going higher and higher and higher.
It was already so rainy, so we just saw the lights and the smoke, so a lot of aggressive smoke.
The rented home had just been renovated. The cause of the blaze still a mystery.
This fire at 2 a.m, that's when you're most vulnerable in your home, you're sound asleep, but the working smoke alarms worked.
Today's wet weather has helped in preventing hotspots in the home, but with barely a roof left, anything which could have been salvaged has now been soaked.
Also wrecked and waterlogged this home at Emu Heights near Penrith. Fire gutting almost every room. A man, woman and child under the age of 5 checked over by paramedics after coming dangerously close to serious injury. Authorities reminding us it's not just the winter months we need to be vigilant.
Last summer we saw a significant increase over the holiday period of house fires, and the large bulk of these were caused in relation to kitchen fires or cooking, so particularly barbecues.
In Liverpool, Hayley Francis, 9 News.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has all but confirmed Australia won't send a warship to the Middle East to help protect a vital trade route. Ships have come under increasing attack in the Red Sea following the Gaza conflict, and there are now fears food and fuel prices will rise.
Anthony Albanese confirming an old friendship with a new counterpart from across the ditch.
Our two countries are most effective when we work together.
New Zealand is committed to doing our share of the heavy lifting in the alliance.
But it's what both nations might do as part of a bigger alliance that's in hot debate.
From the beginning, we've said that this is an international challenge that requires collective and international action.
Militants from Yemen are causing major trade chaos in the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest shipping routes. With weapons and armed drones from Iran, the Houthis have already seized an Israeli-linked cargo ship and attacked several others. BP and cargo giant Maersk among companies to suspend sailing through the Suez Canal. The US quietly requesting Australia send a warship to help keep the sea lanes safe.
We've made no decision yet. We're working it through the normal processes.
That's the official line, when it appears a decision has in fact been made.
We know that the US understands the best way for Australia to support this is through diplomatic support.
In other words, Australia won't be sending a warship, signing instead a statement with 43 other nations condemning Houthi attacks that threaten the supply of food, fuel and humanitarian assistance.
Well, I've got news for the Prime Minister. Press releases don't shoot down drones, warships do.
One defence expert suggesting sophisticated Australian warships aren't properly equipped to counter drone attack.
Well, you've got a $1,000 drone against a $1 million missile, and they've got lots more drones.
The curious lack of clarity as to whether Australia will or won't send a warship suggests indecision or argument inside government. Either way, food and fuel prices are about to creep higher as shipping costs increase. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
A protester has avoided conviction over a scuffle at the pro-Palestinian rally at the Opera House in October. Marcel Gabar pleaded guilty to one count of common assault for shoving an Israel supporter. Gabar was handed a 6-month conditional release order. The race to the White House has taken a stunning turn, with Donald Trump booted off the ballot in Colorado after a court ruled he's ineligible to hold office. The decision is set to have a big impact on the 2024 election.
On the campaign trail at Christmas time,
a very Merry Christmas.
A show of support in Iowa as the former president received an unwanted gift from Colorado. The state's Supreme Court ruling Donald Trump ineligible for the White House because of his role in the January 6 attack on the Capitol.
Under the 14th Amendment's rarely used insurrection clause.
It's a Civil War-era amendment to keep Confederates out of government, used only a handful of times in 150 years.
We usually do not have presidents try to steal elections.
They say I'm a threat to democracy. No, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy.
Today's ruling is now paused for 14 days, lending time for an appeal and for the US Supreme Court to consider whether to uphold or overturn Colorado's decision.
The Supreme Court of the United States ought to affirm this decision.
From Trump's campaign, we have full confidence that the US Supreme Court will quickly rule in our favour and finally put an end to these un-American lawsuits. Today, another hurdle in what is a complicated road to the presidency for Donald Trump. But one thing in his favour, the polls. Trump leads President Joe Biden in almost every battleground state.
Crooked Joe Biden is a low IQ individual. He is truly the worst, most incompetent and most corrupt president in the history of our country.
But on election day, it's not the polls that do the talking, it's the people. And in Colorado, Donald Trump now faces the real possibility his name won't be on the ballot. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
More than 150 people linked to billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are expected to be identified after a ruling from a New York judge. The names are included in documents from Australian Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit against Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell. Anyone on the list has until January the 1st to appeal the decision. Iceland's government says the spectacular fiery scenes from a volcanic eruption do not present a threat to life. But residents in the country's capital are being warned the city might be hit with gas pollution.
Shooting into the sky from a 4-kilometre crack in the Earth's surface, fountains of molten lava. An extraordinary sight on Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula.
It's just like something from a movie.
But if the magma starts gushing towards Grindavik, the closest fishing village, where 4,000 locals have been evacuated, it could threaten homes or the popular tourist attraction, the Blue Lagoon.
We have cleared the town and the area, and now we're just securing the area.
Iceland's Met Office says the lava is flowing at a rate of 100 to 200 cubic metres a second, but its intensity is already decreasing. The country's capital, Reykjavik, warned to expect gas pollution soon.
The type of eruption we're seeing is what we call a fissure eruption with lava flows. It's not an explosive eruption. Fingers crossed, if it stays like this, it will just be one of nature's spectacular things to observe.
Volcanologists say they don't expect this eruption to cause anywhere near the level of disruption caused by 2010's one, where a huge ash cloud sparked the largest closure of European airspace since World War II. Still, they expect these fiery scenes to last several days, or possibly even several months. Curry-Ann Greenbank, 9 News.
Residents in far North Queensland have been forced to leave everything behind as they're evacuated from areas cut off by devastating flooding. Today, officials warned the damage bill is likely to hit $1 billion.
With barely any possessions except for the clothes on their backs, men and women clutching children race towards their only lifeline, filing one by one onto the waiting ADF helicopter. After days stranded in a remote far North Queensland community, they were flown to nearby Cooktown. These just some of the hundreds of evacuees rescued from roofs and flood-ravaged properties in a major military operation.
That really is the miracle of this event, an event so big, and as far as we know at this stage, no loss of life.
But an elderly local is still missing, and 35 communities in the state's far north remain cut off.
One of the key issues we still face in some of the remote communities is resupply of food, groceries, medicine, water.
The only way to send essentials north of Cairns is by boat. And this is why the normally picture-perfect 70-kilometre stretch of the Captain Cook Highway is littered with landslides. It could be weeks before the road's repaired, leaving holiday hotspot Port Douglas isolated and quickly running out of supplies. The clean-up continues across the northern beaches of Cairns. Sunny skies now at Holloways Beach. It was one of the hardest hit areas. Residents are today counting the costs.
There is quite a large number that are homeless, or they are staying in their homes and they're completely trashed. They've lost everything. Power
is slowly returning to the far north. A flood appeal has been launched to provide financial assistance to affected families. Abby Guerin, 9 News.
Australia's most notorious terrorist has spent his first day of freedom at home, surrounded by family. The 63-year-old son says Abdulrahman Benbrik isn't a threat to community safety, but the federal opposition is ringing the alarm bells.
Abdul Benbrik's family working hard to shield him from view. The convicted terrorist accused of plotting to blow up the MCG and Crown Casino, now back living in suburbia. But his son says the Algerian-born cleric is a changed man. Is he a risk to the community, though?
It's definitely not.
And the federal government hopes he's right.
We've applied for the strongest possible order designed to keep our community safe.
This man will always be a threat to our society, and with all the conditions put on, it's not foolproof, unfortunately.
Those conditions include a curfew, ankle monitoring, internet and communication restrictions.
If they are no longer a threat, then why is one of the conditions of their release that they have training for de-radicalisation?
Benbrik left Barwon Prison late yesterday after 18 years behind bars. Now, in the back seat, his once brown beard white. And 9 News was there when he was greeted by loved ones.
Thank God he's home. We're very happy. We just want some peace and quiet. He wants to stay with his kids and his grandkids. That's what we want.
Now comes the welcome home party. Throughout the day, family and friends have been arriving at the home. One even brought a cake. This afternoon, it was his lawyer's turn to visit with a gift, but no comment.
I'll be answering any questions.
The federal opposition more than happy to do the talking.
3 years ago, it was deemed that this individual required a continuing detention order. Are we seriously suggesting, Attorney General, that this person is suddenly no longer a threat?
The opposition needs to stop undermining confidence in our police, and they need to stop stoking fears in the community.
Reid Butler, 9 News.
It's the app that's meant to warn us all about the threat of nearby fires and floods. But the New South Wales Hazards Near Me app has a flaw. It's no longer accessible for the vision impaired.
It's more than a little ironic that the Hazards Near Me app has a major hazard of its own.
Incident detail summary. Incident detail, adjustable.
Donna Purcell is blind and picked up the flaw a few weeks ago. Living just a street away from the bush at Mount Ku-ring-gai, she smelled smoke and immediately went to the app to see if there was a fire close by. But the screen reader she uses to voice what she's touching on her phone is no longer compatible with the app.
Incident detail summary button.
Having that information to know whether there's a fire close by and if you do need to leave quickly is so important. And for me, being vision impaired, while that was working, it just gave me that safeguard that I feel I've lost.
The app used to be Fires Near Me, but was upgraded to include other hazards such as floods.
It was something that had that level of accessibility that's changed. And so for that to have been there and taken away is really concerning.
The positive right now, widespread rain overnight and throughout today has eased the bushfire situation. Overall, the number of fires across the state has fallen to 45, with 15 uncontained. A fix for the app is ready, sort of.
We've been working on a solution with the RFS and obviously with the other agencies, and we'll be able to upgrade that as soon as possible. The thing that we're waiting on at the moment, of course, is to be able to get a break in the fire.
And that's because they don't want to take the app offline while so many fires are burning.
There's a lot of warnings, that we are going to have more fires and a hot, dry summer, and with that app not working, it really does create anxiety.
In Mount Ku-ring-gai, Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Well, let's now get a check of today's weather. Hi, Kate.
Good evening, Georgie. It was a wet and wild day after that southerly arrived last night, bringing strong winds and rain. It wasn't heavy, but it was consistent. Penrith picking up 77 millimetres since late last night. 48 millimetres at Badgerys Creek, 44 at Terry Hills, while the city picked up 28 millimetres. Temperatures were well below average. In fact, the warmest time of day was at 6 a.m. when the city peaked at 19.3, but it felt more like 14 or 15 degrees for most of the day. We are expecting more wet weather tomorrow, so when will the showers ease? I'll let you know after sport. Georgie?
See you then. Thank you, Kate. Still to come, terror for a young family at Roselands. A mother hides her kids in the wardrobe after being broken into by mistake. A sunscreen recalled over concerns it won't actually work. $500 million up for grabs. How to claim what's yours. A mother and baby in a terrifying near miss. And Blue Origin blasts back into the space race with some special cargo on board. A family of 5 has been left traumatised after a terrifying armed home invasion in Sydney's southwest. Police are tonight searching for the gunman responsible, who might have broken into the wrong house.
Speeding down a Roseland street, want-to-be thieves flee a botched burglary, leaving George to clean up their mess and console his young family.
This gangster, bomb, door. This my son, Deon, this go.
Busting through the front door of this Ludgate Street home, armed with a gun, shouting for money, the intruders charged upstairs and into the children's bedrooms.
Of course, scare. Of course, because there's bomb, everybody scare.
Inside for less than 7 minutes, the trio left empty-handed. George ran to his neighbour for help.
Got a wake-up call from the neighbour George, ringing the doorbell constantly. We were sleeping, and he said, I've just been robbed.
The children aged 3, 7 and 9 are all now traumatised, pulled from their beds by their mum, who bundled them into a wardrobe to hide. The gunmen fled in this Audi Q5 stolen from Narellan last night, torching it in a nearby park. Detectives believe this may have been a case of mistaken identity.
Going to have to lock the doors now. I'm a bit worried.
In Roselands, Sophie Upcroft, 9 News.
4 people, including 2 children, have been rushed to hospital after an apparent gas explosion destroyed their home in Florida. The powerful blast was captured on a neighbour's doorbell camera. The victim suffered burns and broken bones. A mother managed to pull her young daughter to safety seconds before the child was crushed by an out-of-control car in the UK. The 2-year-old child and female driver were taken to hospital with minor injuries after the incident, which took place near Birmingham. 2 popular sunscreens are being recalled tonight over fears they offer no sun protection at all. Some batches of Bondi Sands Mineral Zinc Sunscreen 50 Plus Face Lotion and 50 Plus Body Lotion aren't mixed properly. Anyone who has the products with these batch numbers can return them for a refund. Billionaire Jeff Bezos has placed himself back in the space race with the successful launch of a new rocket. Today's unmanned mission marked Blue Origin's first liftoff after being grounded for more than a year.
And liftoff.
Blue Origin headed back to space and getting back in the race.
Loving that view back down on the clouds over West Texas.
15 months after this fiery failure, which left the company grounded amid an investigation, Jeff Bezos's space tourism vessel today marking mission success. No human on board the New Shepard 24, instead 33 payloads containing scientific research, along with 38,000 postcards.
Each postcard is returned to its creator stamped, flown in space.
Blue Origin's launch comes a month after Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket Starship exploded in the sky. It's a battle of the billionaires amid their race to produce the goods for NASA and put man back on the moon. Today's blast-off for Bezos marks the 9th time his rocket has entered space. It's reusable.
We've learned how to launch, land and repeat. We've been able to take these boosters and to fly them over and over again.
But when will people be back on board?
We look forward to flying our next crewed flight soon.
In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Still to come, a fiery afternoon at Liverpool Council. Councillors clash over the controversial plan to bankroll a new aquatic centre. Airbnb forced to pay up $30 million for misleading customers. A welcome update from Jimmy Barnes after his open heart surgery. Also tonight, we go inside the secret operation keeping Australia connected. And Matilda star Mary Fowler reveals her big dreams to her little fans in St George. The Mayor of Liverpool has come under attack from his own councillors who are questioning the potential fire sale of public assets. An aquatic centre, a library and a childcare centre are among the facilities being considered to raise extra funding for a $50 million leisure centre.
A heated debate at Liverpool City Council.
I have an obligation as a chair of this meeting to ensure that no derogatory comments are made against council.
She's not allowed to make any comments. You keep bullying and talking over it.
Councillor Kellyanne calling out what she describes as a lack of transparency on the transformation of Hammondville Oval into a state-of-the-art leisure precinct. She and 3 other councillors voted against a motion to sell off public land to fund the project's aquatic centre, saying the community hasn't been consulted.
When you sell a public asset, you never get it back. It's gone forever.
There has also been no discussion around the costings of this.
Mayor Ned Minoon and his wife, then Liberal candidate Tina Ayed, pledged joint funding for the sports facility in March, with the former coalition government committing $21.8 million of the $50 million development if re-elected. Labor chose not to match the cash injection, with council now considering selling off public assets to meet the shortfall, including Holsworthy Aquatic Centre Centre, Holsworthy Early Education and Care Centre, the Moorebank Community Centre and Library, and land near Moorebank Sports Club.
It seems as though our local area has missed out on state budget funding.
During recent consultation of the Hammondville project, community members raised concerns over insufficient funding and the possible sale of public assets wasn't disclosed.
We have agreed on high-level terms, but that's all subject to the community saying yes. So we're going to go out there after Australia Day, when everyone gets back, and say, what are your views, everyone? And we'll ask you, say, we want to sell this to fund this.
You have documentation around the sale of land being drawn up, but then community consultation only commencing at the end of January.
In Hammondville, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Airbnb will have to pay $30 million in fines and compensation for misleading customers after an investigation by the consumer watchdog. The ACCC alleged that for 3 years, the company failed to make it clear that Australian consumers were being charged for accommodation here in US dollars. Around 63,000 customers are eligible for compensation. They'll be contacted by Airbnb in the next 45 days. For the first time in years, Telstra has opened the doors to its secret operations headquarters. The telco showing off the systems it says will help avoid a mass outage like the one competitor Optus suffered last month.
Hundreds of staff monitoring thousands of problems whenever they pop up. This, according to Telstra, is the secret control hub that goes into overdrive if any part of the network goes down.
Any production issues, any outages, you will see red on that screen.
But today the telco is publicly flexing its muscle over its biggest competitor, letting cameras have a look at the hidden facility in Melbourne, saying their problems are kept small here, and that Optus's massive nationwide outage last month that cost the CEO her job wouldn't be allowed to happen.
Every day we're doing what we call match fit exercises. That's wargaming should we lose a major part of the network or something we haven't seen before.
Even though almost everything we do is now wireless, it's still billions of cables and pieces of hardware that keep the telco going, and even a little damage can cause a big problem. And no surprise to customers, plenty of issues still make it through to those paying top dollar for service. According to the Telecommunications Ombudsman, Telstra received close to 27,000 complaints this year. That is down 35% on 2022, but the biggest issues for customers were a lack of action, fees, service and outages.
The only right number for Ombudsman complaints is 0.
But even with issues popping up, Telstra is flaunting its position as the country's biggest telco, saying the network is being kept safe here, day and night. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Matilda star Mary Fowler is back in Australia to celebrate Christmas with her family. The 20-year-old is a poster girl for the sport, with sponsors lining up. But today, it was a kindergarten in Sydney's south at the front of the queue.
It was a merry Christmas today for kids at a Carlton kindy. Mary Fowler dropping by as fame brings fortune to the Matilda star.
Did the phone start ringing after the success of the World Cup?
My agents, definitely.
Her latest deal, the poster girl for Rise and Shine kindergartens.
For me, like off the field, my dream is to have kids one day and have a family. So, you know, it's really nice to be able to work with them now.
Mary flew in last night from her base in England, and the headlines this morning were she was greeted by her Penrith Rugby League star Nathan Cleary. But the PR handler was prickly and protective.
Nathan was there to meet you last night at the airport.
So
that's all good.
Can't ask that question.
So it was back to the game she loves. And next year's Olympics.
For me, like, a World Cup is one thing, but as a kid, it was always my dream to go to the Olympics.
If you're not convinced Mary's made the big time, well, she is second behind her superstar teammate Sam Kerr as the most Googled Australian in 2023.
And today she was cashing in with the kids.
Mary, are you a good cook?
But she is a good kick, and Mary will be back in action with Manchester City in 10 days.
Breathtaking!
After Christmas with her family and maybe a special guest. In Carlton, Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Some good news tonight on the health of Jimmy Barnes. He's revealed he'll be home in time for Christmas after undergoing open heart surgery just last week. The 67-year-old says he'll be discharged from hospital on Friday. It's also welcome news for the fans who put up this mural for the singer today in Ashfield. Still to come tonight, $500 million in unclaimed Revenue New South Wales cash. Are you owed some? Plus the Sydney car parks where you're more likely to have a prank.
And the hunt is on to find Sydney's best dressed Chrissy Buss.
And in sport with Danika, Australian cricketers have cleaned up at the Indian Premier League auction.
Yes, good evening. Georgie, Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins became the highest paid IPL players of all time. But what effect will these huge sums have on traditional forms of the game? Will it kill Test cricket? Why the comeback queen of Australian tennis is confident she can make it to the top. Plus, fashion advice for the high seas from one of the great characters of the City to Hobart.
It looks like we're in for a wet start to the school holidays, but will the rain clear before Santa arrives? I'll let you know shortly.
One of our cricket greats fears the future of Test cricket may be under threat from cashed-up, shorter forms of the game. It comes after Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins earned huge paydays, becoming the highest earners in Indian Premier League history.
This time last year, Spencer Johnson hadn't played a game in the Big Bash. Today, he woke up as one of the world's highest paid players, sold for $1.8 million in the IPL auction.
Never really thought I'd be in this situation. Mum and Dad back home were just, I don't think they can believe it when they put the number in and it spat out whatever it spat out.
That was dwarfed by the bags of cash thrown at Australia's frontline fast bowlers. Pat Cummins claiming $3.6 million.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun in this season and hopefully plenty of success.
Mitchell Starc, the highest payday in IPL history, $4.4 million.
I can't wait to get to Eden Gardens to experience the home fans, the home crowd and the atmosphere.
Watching from India ahead of her own match, his wife Elisa Healy.
I was in the gym trying to do a gym session while the IPL auction was on the TV. Yeah, an amazing night for him and obviously justification for a lot of years of hard work.
It's reason to celebrate for Australia's stars, but there is a bigger picture. What does it all mean for the more traditional formats of the game?
I think Australia have got it right, but that pressure is going to be even greater in years to come. There's already talk about a second IPL. There's Dubai leagues, there's American leagues popping up everywhere.
Is there a threat to Test cricket?
Oh, no doubt. There's an ongoing threat to Test cricket. Domestic leagues around the world are getting bigger. There's getting more of them, and that obviously is going to put pressure on every nation.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
Cameron Bancroft is using T20 cricket to push his claim for a spot in the Test team. The former Test opener scored 74 from 54 balls for the Sydney Thunder in their Big Bash game against the Adelaide Strikers. But the Thunder's impressive total of 7 for 200 wasn't enough, the Strikers chasing down the target with 2 balls to spare. Isla Tomljanovic feared she'd never make it back to the top of tennis after a serious knee injury sidelined her for months this year. Thankfully, an intense rehab regime has the Wimbledon quarterfinalists pain-free and aiming high for the Australian summer.
Aussie Isla back home, healthy and in high spirits.
When I was boarding my flight to come to Sydney, I was just the happiest kid almost, because it's what I've been looking forward to since I've had surgery.
That surgery was on her knee. A painful cartilage injury last summer saw Tomljanovic pull out on the eve of both the United Cup and Australian Open, eventually sidelining her for more than 8 months.
There were times where I really, doubted a lot of things, and if I'll ever be able to come back and physically be able to do what I expect myself and what's just required to play at a high level.
The 30-year-old admits rehab was tough. She returned at the US Open in late August, slowly regaining form before winning a title at her most recent tournament in Brazil.
There's still a lot to improve on, especially my movement and things, but at the same time I feel like I can play a high level with what I've got. Just gets me excited, and hopefully that perspective can maybe help me turn around my bad juju from my Aussie summers these past few years.
Tomljanovic has made 3 Grand Slam quarter-finals and has high expectations for next year's majors, starting with the Australian Open.
I don't want to just repeat it, I want to go a step further, so the hunger is probably more there than ever.
Before that, she'll represent Australia at the United Cup beginning next Friday.
Playing United Cup is just something I really wanted to do last year just because it's a team event with, you know, still tennis being an individual sport, and I really wanted to experience that.
Luke Dovesey, 9 News.
Manchester City is one win away from claiming one of the few trophies it hasn't won yet. The English champions are into the final of the Club World Cup in Saudi Arabia, winning their semi 3-0. In the League Cup quarter-finals, Chelsea defeated Newcastle on penalties, while Fulham also needed a shootout to beat Everton. Last year, Kathy Veal and Bridget Canham proved age is no obstacle, capturing the hearts of the nation when they finished the Sydney to Hobart on the stroke of the new year. The inspiring duo is back to conquer the Great Race again on board the smallest boat in the fleet.
They're a pair of pensioners who have formed a formidable partnership, but that wasn't always the case.
And you're great friends?
We are now. We weren't close friends particularly when we started this, but now we've spent so much time together and working well. We pretty much know what each other's going to say next.
At 71 and 63, Kathy Veal and Bridget Canham are back to tackle the Sydney to Hobart as the only all-female two-person crew.
Just because you get to a certain age doesn't mean your future is in the Bridge Club and the Bowls Club.
You can inspire people to reach their own goals. They don't have to do a Sydney to Hobart. Their own goal might be to own their own boat or learn how to sail.
Kathy inviting us on board her beloved 30-foot Currawong, showing off the living quarters.
That's comfortable?
You should see some boats. This is comfortable.
This is luxury living.
Absolutely.
Just imagine being out on this little yacht, out on the open ocean, battling the elements, treacherous seas, strong winds and the rain, not knowing when or if you'll eventually arrive in Hobart.
Someone said to me, there's no such thing as bad weather, there's just wrong clothing.
So I need a rain jacket.
You need a rain jacket, and this is in bad conditions, by the way.
Completing their maiden voyage south in front of a huge crowd just 18 minutes before the clock ticked over to 2023, this duo is determined to avoid finishing at the back of the fleet this year.
I want to be there to welcome the last boat in.
Which won't be you this year.
We hope.
Zach Bailey.
See you later.
9 News.
Oh, what an inspiration. I know I'll be cheering for them this year, Georgie.
Good on them indeed. Thanks for that, Danika. Next, $500 million in unclaimed cash up for grabs. Also, the moment a thief takes off with nearly half a tonne of ham from a Queensland butcher. And 8-year-old John has a big job, crowning Sydney's best-dressed Christmas bus.
The numbers are expected to rise, but so far, Suncorp says it's received more than 900 claims relating to ex-tropical cyclone Jasper and the flooding that's followed in the days after. Insurance Australia Group, which operates NRMA and CGU, among other brands, says it's had 230, up from 155 yesterday, so the numbers are now rising fast. Over on the share market today, another rise to a new 10-month high. Supermarkets and Telstra lifted, Fortescue fell slightly, but it remains up 36% for the year. And the Australian dollar is also touching multi-month highs as the end of the year gets closer. Today it was within reach of 68 US cents and 62 euro cents.
Thank you, Chris. $575 million is a lot of money, and some of it could be yours. That's the amount of unclaimed cash currently sitting with Revenue New South Wales that could help ease the financial burden of Christmas. Liz Daniels has more.
The
The festive season is an expensive time of the year and the perfect time to claim some extra Christmas cash. The pile of lost money in New South Wales has jackpotted to $500 million from refunds, uncashed cheques, share dividends, commissions, bonds and money from the sale of a property. It's now waiting to be returned to its rightful owners.
This might be because someone has changed their name or changed their address. If you've forgotten about it, we want to hold on to this money. We want to give it back to you before Christmas.
More than $23 million has already been claimed in the past 2 years. Areas of Sydney owed the most are the city, inner south, North Sydney and Hornsby, the inner southwest, eastern suburbs and inner west.
We know that there are lots of families and households doing it tough after so many successive interest rate rises. So that's why we encourage them to jump onto the Revenue New South Wales website and see if some of that money might be yours.
It doesn't cost anything to make a claim. Just go to the Revenue New South Wales website, click on Unclaimed Money on the top right of the page and follow the prompts.
Well, we all know shopping centre car parks can be a nightmare over Christmas, and now the suburbs with the top bingle black spots have been revealed. Insurer Amy crunched thousands of claims and says Miranda was the worst, followed by Chatswood and Castle Hill. The most common claim is accidental damage while parked, with Friday afternoons throughout December the most common time to have an accident. He's the Grinch who stole Christmas ham from a butchery north of Brisbane, leaving them struggling to fill orders. The meat thief captured making 3 runs to his car from the cool room, swiping 400 kilos, including 16 legs of ham. Glasshouse Country Meats says it's urgently now cooking more to replace the stolen items. For most of the year, they travel around the city without a second look. But come December, Sydney's buses suddenly transform, wrapped in tinsel and ringing with carols. And today, Sydney's best Christmas bus was declared.
They have been cruising the corridors of the city, carting both customers and Christmas cheer. And today, 7 Sydney buses duked it out for the title, nay, honour, of Best Dressed Chrissy Bus.
A lot of the drivers themselves and the companies are putting their own hands in their charitable pockets and also raising money for children who really need it over Christmas.
8-year-old kidney transplant patient John, the high bar of judging the buses needed to jump. And third place would be awarded to the 333 from Bondi.
Every time they get on, they are smiling, they are happy, they're taking photos. It makes their day.
Silver would go to the 114 Balmoral to Royal North Shore service, where Roxana, Barbara and Narissa share the wheel.
We had an idea this year of a frozen winter wonderland, hence why I'm in a frozen outfit today.
Hello, Elsa.
But I'm not Elsa, I'm Anna.
Oh, okay. Mate, I'm an old man, I don't know this stuff. But after the intense round of judging, it would be the wrapping paper wrapped roof of the double-decker to the hills, Route 754, that would grasp the Christmas laurels, along with the reporting correspondent.
With me driving in a uniform, mate, it makes it much better.
This uniform?
Absolutely, mate.
Well done. Hey, mate, you grow the beard for it?
Absolutely, yeah, it's all original, my friend.
With 5 sleeps to go, you can still hail a Chrissy bus, now easy to find on travel apps. At Brookvale, Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Very good. All right, Kate is coming up. She's got all the weather.
Hello again. We should see the rain ease tonight, but showers will be back tomorrow. Right now in the city, it is 16 degrees, 17 in our west. The forecast, plus what to expect on Christmas Day, is next. It was a cool and wet day across the city. That rain really hanging around. Temperatures between 6 and 9 degrees below average, with most suburbs only reaching 19 degrees. The same low pressure trough brought heavy rain to the Hunter and Southern Highlands. Mittagong has recorded 115 millimetres since last night, while a severe weather warning for heavy rain and hail has been issued for the state's northwest and central west this evening. Across the country tomorrow, lows and troughs will continue to bring heavy showers, storms and gusty winds extends to the top end, Queensland and northern New South Wales. Brisbane's expecting showers, 28 degrees, partly cloudy in Canberra, 21, cloudy in Melbourne, sunny in Adelaide and a very warm 37 in Perth. Closer to home, coastal showers will continue tomorrow with a very high chance of rain for Newcastle, 21 degrees. Wollongong will also get some showers. Those strong southerly winds will persist too. A wind warning has been issued for these areas. It's expected to be another wet and windy day in Sydney tomorrow with moderate to fresh south-southwesterly winds. After an overnight low of 17, the city should reach a top of 24 degrees, which is a couple of degrees below the December average. Temperatures across our suburbs will remain a few degrees below average too. 23 forecast for Blacktown and Campbelltown, 22 in Parramatta and 21 in Cronulla. Looking ahead to Friday, if you're wrapping up the working week for the year, it will be partly cloudy with a possible shower, 24 degrees. Partly cloudy on Saturday, 26, and the chance of a shower or two on Christmas Eve. Our west is looking fairly similar though. Showers more likely on Saturday and Sunday when it will reach 28 degrees. Overnight temperatures looking closer to average between 16 and 19 degrees there. And we could be in for a wet Christmas day. At this stage, the Bureau is predicting up to 8 millimetres of rain, 27 degrees in the city, 32 on our west. Hopefully the rain clears between now and then. We do need it, but it can wait until Boxing Day, Georgie.
That's exactly right, Kate. Well done. Thank you. And that is 9 News for this Wednesday. Dimity Clancy's up next with a current affair. I'm Georgie Gardner. Thanks for being with us. Good night.